One thing I wanted to mention that I thought was interesting of the first three games. I mean, there's so much that was interesting, actually. There's a lot packed into those three games. Bullpen was really good. And again, it's three games, but you always, against a bad team, but you always like to, you just like to see something settle in. You like to see an area of the team get off to a good start. That's kind of the whole point of playing these games. You want good results no matter when they are. I thought Paul DeJong was good in the first three games, 2 for 10. But don't judge him on the batting average because he also walked a couple of times, hit the ball hard. He also hit a 2-run home run to right field. So after 3 games, he's got a .500 slugging percentage. Pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. .333 on-base percentage. The one thing he did in that series that jumped out at me is that he's pretty much been a kind of a pull-crazy hitter. Last year, for sure. In recent years, definitely loves to try to pull the ball. But one thing he did a lot of last year, by his own acknowledgement, he was just trying to yank everything out of the park. I mean, and he was so determined to pull the ball and like hit it right down the line, get a home run that way, whatever, that he was all out of whack in terms of his balance. I mean, it was bad for him because he overdid it. And all he did is just ended up screwing himself up, as far as his hitting approach, because he was easy to exploit. Every pitcher knew what he was going to try to do, and they took advantage of it. And they took advantage of it by working him outside, and he's still trying to yank these outside pitches in the left field or right down the line. And it was just a mess. I don't have to tell you that. It was just a mess. Now, there have been times in his career when Paul DeJong, when he tries to hit the ball up the middle, or to opposite field, if he avoids the pull crazy tendencies, he's actually had really good numbers. And let me give you an example. In his best season, which was 2017, when he hit the ball to right or center field, right, his slugging percentage was .855. His batting average was .434. Now, if you look at 2018, he didn't do it as often, and it didn't really result in better numbers, and I'm not sure what happened there. But if you look even at 2020, and then in 2019, let me go back. I apologize. In 2019, that was his 30 home run season. He had a good .440 slugging percentage. That's not like awe-inspiring, but it's still good. A .440 slugging percentage in 2019. And even in 2020, which was the pandemic shortened season, he only had like 29 plate appearances when he hit the ball to right field or center field, but he hit .357. So when he goes the other way being either center, or right, he's had pretty good results to show, and sometimes great results to show for it. So over the weekend against the Pirates, there were 4 plate appearances where he hit the ball to right or to center. And it paid off for him. It paid off for him, really well, because he went 2 for 4. He had a home run. He had the 2 RBIs and hit the ball hard. Now, 4 plate appearances ain't nothing really, but it matters only in this sense. To me, it matters because it's something that he worked on all winter and also through spring training. He's made a concentrated effort to hit to all fields rather than trying to pull everything. And if you look at the percentage of balls in play over the weekend, he hit about 43% of the fair balls in play to the opposite field or center field. And let me tell you something. He hadn't been anywhere near that in recent years. In fact, entering 2022, according to Baseball Reference, DeJong had a career rate, this is strictly opposite field, a career rate of hitting it to the opposite field 16% of the time. Over the weekend, one series, which was an extension of everything that he worked on for months, right? All of a sudden, in one series, only 3 games, but still, hit the ball the opposite field 43% of the time. And to me, that's an indication of the work that he put in. You should be happy that, small sample or not, what he tried to do, what he worked on, what he cultivated through a lot of hard work over the winter and into the spring. You saw results from that, even if it's just one weekend, because this was an extension of what he wanted to do in terms of giving himself a makeover as a hitter. So I just want to throw that in there because it's something for you to keep an eye on. So when the game starts tomorrow, in rest of the week or whatever, join me in watching DeYoung and join me in watching whether he's going to continue to try to hit the ball center and right. Because if he does, I think it's a good sign, and I think it's an indication that we can expect more from him in 2022. Because if he continues this, if he sustains this in terms of his approach I'm talking about, it tells me that he recognized the value in changing the way he was doing things, and he's committed to it. The real test will be when he doesn't do well, when he has 4 or 5 bad games in a row, let's say. Is he going to start to get, panicky? Is he going to try to start to yank everything out of the park again? That's why I say I invite you along with me to just watch him in the coming days, maybe the rest of the first month of the season, just to see if this is something that's going to stick. Because if it does, the guy's going to give him a chance to have a good year. Just like in 2019, he had a good year. 30 home runs, good slug. And actually, when you put his defense into it, he was the 7th highest rated shortstop in Major League Baseball as recently. That's offense, defense, base running, as recently as 2019. And I know that some people, and I'm talking about fair-minded people, I know some are, reluctant to embrace this whole narrative about DeYoung changing things and all this. Because, look, we've heard that so often from a lot of hitters that are trying to get back on track. And there's always a narrative about how they went to this place and they worked with this hitting guru and they went there and they went here and they figured it out. This is a very old narrative, and a lot of times it's just bunk. I get it. So I understand your skepticism if you have any, as long as you're sincere about it. Because there's some people are going to hate him no matter what. This dude could hit 390 this year, and people are going to be ripping him for not hitting 400. I mean, seriously. So when I say, hey, join me in watching this, because this is going to be fascinating to see whether he has figured this out and he will stick with it. I'm gearing that to the people that are fair-minded and, take a more thoughtful approach to analyzing baseball. So we'll see where it goes, but I kind of liked what I saw in the opening days of the season. And, I tell you what, the other thing about Busch Stadium, and I haven't looked at these numbers yet. We know the Cardinals had a hard time last year. It actually goes back a few years hitting at Busch Stadium. It seemed to me more balls were going center and right. It seems to me maybe this is part of their hitting approach. And I'm not talking about every player, because we know that Arenado hit his home runs to left field. We know O'Neill hit his home run to left field. I'm not talking about that this is a universal thing. But I'll look it up, and if I'm wrong, I'll tell you tomorrow. Seriously, if my impression is mistaken or incorrect, I'll correct myself tomorrow after I have a chance to look into this a little bit. Now, on the flip side, I talked about this with Will Leach today on Seeing Red, and we both agreed that with Yadier Molina, especially given his age, given the fact that he was late to camp, given the fact that he came to camp a little heavy, I think the way to put this is that he's just going to need – this is an old baseball saying every spring. He's just going to have to play himself into shape. So I think that maybe his late start to spring training is probably a factor. But I just wanted to note something. Again, this is me asking you, or just saying, hey, let's keep an eye on this. Because we can't make any conclusions based on 3 games. That's what we said about DeYoung. But we also saw evidence that he's trying to do things differently. Can he continue to do it? Will he stay with it? With Yadier Molina, same thing. I give you the same caveat. It's only 3 games. But he did not take good swings in that Pirates series. He didn't take good swings at all. And he was 1 for 12, which is .083. And according to the StatCast stuff, right, which I don't think is anything too fancy here. He only had one hard hit ball in the series, and he has yet to barrel a pitch. And you barrel a pitch, you're hitting it as well as you can. So he really made hard contact on a ball in play one time, and his average exit velocity in the series was only 80 miles an hour. And keep in mind that even at his best times, Molina's average exit velocity is around 86, 87. So I offer nothing more beyond that than to say, and here I go again, let's keep an eye on this. Let's see if this is, well, Yadi's, got to play his way into shape. Yadi will do what's right. Yadi always makes corrections. When he was too skinny the one season, he put on weight. We assume he's going to be taking off some weight, and that he'll find his swing. That's the best case scenario. But let's watch it. Let's see where this goes. Because when you see, and I hate to say this, but when you see an aging hitter, no matter what his name is, but when you see that, and all of a sudden it's a lot of soft contact, that's an ominous sign. However, it ain't an ominous sign based on 3 games. It could be an ominous sign. Again, let's see where it goes. So one other thing before we take another time out here, if we do. Our friend Joe Sheehan from the Joe Sheehan newsletter, he had an interesting, when he was predicting, he went through the rankings, his preseason power rankings of all the teams. I think he had the Cardinals at number 13, or maybe it was number 11. I should know. 13th overall, right. And then for each team, he had a random comment about a random player. And I thought this was interesting. Joe wrote, and I quote, "At some point during the offseason, I landed on Paul Goldschmidt and was floored to see that he now has over 50 of the Baseball Reference WAR through age of 33. So he's got 50 B WAR through age 33. And Joe was surprised by that. Joe said, that's 70% of a Hall of Fame career. And at 33, Goldie was worth 6 wins based on WAR for a playoff team last year. He said, quote, I have never for a second really thought of Goldschmidt as a Hall of Famer. But 2 good years is going to push him close to 60 WAR. That's wins above replacement. And that's where your Hall of Fame case comes down to how much the voters like you. So I got to say something. I have immense appreciation for Goldschmidt's skills, his hitting approach, the way he strives for improvement, the way he did improve last year. And he's found something that I think is going to put him in line for a big year again this year, just with his approach. He's got the angles figured out. He's got a lot of different things figured out. He's hitting the ball to all fields, proving that that's a smart way to go. And it is interesting because I never thought about him as like, he's a Hall of Fame guy. I thought of him as a guy that had maybe an outside chance, but I also knew that the age factor would kick in, and we didn't know how long he would perform at an elite level. But after a slight downturn there for a couple years, and again, let's not exaggerate it, he was still a hell of a player. It's just his offensive numbers weren't as robust. They weren't as almighty as they were during the Arizona years, which actually makes a hell of a lot of sense because Arizona's a big-time hitter's park. But the way Goldie bounced back last year, and I hate to even say bounced back because there was really nothing. In fact, in 2020, he hit very, very well. And 2019, when you got past like June, he hit very, very well. So this is not unexpected, except he actually raised his game last season. After the first 2 years as a Cardinal, which means 2 more candles on the birthday cake, he actually got better offensively last season. And that's notable because if he has found a better approach to hitting that gives him more hits, and he's going to be determined not to get himself out, and he's going to take more walks, and him batting second is a wonderful fit. Paul Goldschmidt could get in that range where people will start to say, you know what, we got to talk about this guy. I thought it was just a great point that Joe Sheehan made and one that I appreciate because I think Goldie's great. I love watching this guy play baseball. It's not just at the plate. He's a tremendous first baseman. He runs the bases really, really well. And the problem with, there's too many people that when you say he runs the bases well, their first response is, well, he didn't steal a lot of bases last year. Missing the entire point. Goldschmidt's instincts on the base paths, as far as him taking extra bases, as far as him knowing who to run on, calculating the risk of trying to go from first to third or second to home or first to home, depending on the ball was hit. He's got razor sharp judgment. And even though he runs pretty well for a big guy, the point is he does this with his mind and his baseball intellect. He's a damn good base runner. And I'd rather have that somebody is going to show you how fast he is and get thrown out at second base all the time. I don't care. This isn't about timing a guy in the 40. Goldie's not trying out for wide receiver anywhere. He's a really smart, instinctive base runner. So he helps the Cardinals win in so many ways. And I'm glad he got that Gold Glove last year because he really, really, truly deserved that.